Hello and welcome back. Before we begin, we would like to apologise to Mrs. Evadne Mooseblaster of Sutton Park for the unfortunate accident she had whilst listening last week. When we said that the best way to enjoy my rendition of the theme song to Grandad was to be sealed in an airtight crate of frozen parsnips, then thrown off the top of Salisbury Cathedral, we were, of course, speaking figuratively. We hope your chilblains get better soon, Mrs. Mooseblaster. And your broken leg.
Trowbridge, make the announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, with hope in their hearts and a frog in their throats, it's episode 3 of Round the Archives. Hello and welcome to issue 3?
Issue 3.
Good leaf. Good grief. Issue 3, episode 3, whatever, of Round the Archives. Yeah. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Lisa.
And that's Martha Cat over there, sort of purring a bit.
Who's not going to speak for a minute,
okay.
But she might speak.
Right. We do have some odds and ends from episode 2. Mm-hmm. David Brunt was kind enough to point out that Jeannie, that I said I'd never heard of, was actually the cartoon version of I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh, right, okay.
So, cartoon Jeannie.
Oh, stop perving over cartoons.
Oh. But David Brunt, we just applaud you for your knowledge of stuff.
Yes.
And
your knowledge of
everything.
Weird things is unparalleled.
And we should definitely mention David's Z-Cars books.
Yes, buy David Z-Cars books.
Available from Lulu. Yeah. They are...
Very good.
Brilliant, and in the last few weeks they have been invaluable, and we'll get onto that in a minute.
Yes.
Warren did send you a message,
yeah.
Apparently amazed that I couldn't recognise the 633 Squadron when I even read out the word 633 Squadron. But I do not claim to know anything about films at all.
Particularly war films.
And sorry, I can just not recognise these things. A couple of podcasts we ought to mention. First of all, the Doctor Who Hour, done by our friends Justin and Mike in America. They're working their way through the whole of Doctor Who.
Yes. Mad fools.
Mad fools that they are. They've just done Planet of Giants this week.
Yes.
So it's the Doctor Who Hour. It's on podbean.com and iTunes. Their Twitter is at Doctor Who Hour.
Right.
Highly recommended. They really seem to be having fun doing it, and I'm loving listening to it.
Even though they do sometimes get a little bit confused, but then that's the English-American difference.
Oh, yes, language.
Yes.
We the word ropey was
and Parsons'
discussed.
Nose, they seem to have
and Parsons' Nose, but that's fun. Also, our friend Paul Chandler with his Shy Life podcast. Paul kindly did us the end theme tune for this.
He did.
So the
lovely. Thank you, Paul.
The Shy Life podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, and I think a few other platforms as well. But again, his Twitter is at Shy Yeti.
And he writes very good poems as well.
He does. He's a prolific author.
Yes.
And
he's a very talented boy.
Yes. One other thing that I inexplicably failed to mention last time was the 321 song that was done. This was Ted Rogers' single, simply called Dusty Bin. The whole thing is on SoundCloud if you are feeling brave, but just to give you an idea, it goes something like this. Yes, that's probably why it was never a hit. Martha is giving us such an evil look after
But
having
she kept rubbing the computer. She quite liked it.
having played that. But anyway, the big excitement of the last few
Months
weeks
or so, yeah.
has been lots and lots of activity on the missing episodes front, thanks to the sterling guys at Kaleidoscope, the TV recovery
Thank you,
group,
Kaleidoscope,
who just kept announcing stuff every day.
They did.
This was happening as we were recording the previous issue,
but we didn't have space for it there.
but
So.
it was still ongoing, and the dust hadn't settled. So let's just quickly go through the list of what was found.
Some of what was found.
Well, some of what we haven't got time to do everything.
No.
The first sort of major one was Tunnel of Fear.
Yep.
Season 1 episode of The Avengers, 1961.
Yeah.
Annoyingly now meaning that our complete Avengers box set is now not a complete Avengers box set.
Well, they're not going to release it just for that one episode, are they?
But previously there were, 2 and a bit episodes?
2 and a bit episodes.
And now there's 3 and a bit episodes.
Yeah.
So we're
proving it.
This did show up a tiny little bit on Newsnight the other night, which actually did a report on all the missing episodes recoveries. Tiny little clip of Steed pretending that his cigarette's going to explode or something.
Something, yes. It's
didn't quite know what was going on.
Yeah, because I think that's probably from the middle of the episode.
Yeah. But also, Softly Softly, Talk to Me from 1966.
Yeah.
We've never seen a black and white Softly Softly.
There's not many of them that exist anymore, I don't think. So.
We've got a few Softly Softly Task Force,
which we may
in colour.
Start watching again.
But that's also exciting. Dr. Finley's Casebook, A Questionable Practice from 1963. Mm-hmm. Again, another series I know virtually really nothing about. I do have a vague feeling that was it Andrew Cruikshank? He was a sort of oldish bloke. I have a vague feeling that he came to my school once.
Oh, right, okay.
My first school. I just vaguely remember meeting this.
To do what?
I've no idea. I don't know why he
Dr.
came.
Finley? Or?
Well, they said about this as a man who was in Dr. Finley or something.
Okay. Did he play Dr. Finley?
Oh dear, I'm going to have a look at that. Can you hold that? It's just the recorder. I don't know. Let's have a look. Andrew Cruikshank. Hang on, we will be with you in a few seconds. You rather thrown me by asking that. Andrew John Maxon Cruikshank was a
I think he might have played the older
Scottish supporting actor. Oh, he was Dr. Cameron.
Dr. Cameron. Right.
Yeah. And weirdly, I was listening to some Round the Horns on my way to work the other day, and one of their episodes was the whole thing was based around a spoof of Dr. Finley's casebook.
Okay.
But you know how these coincidences happen. But we've also got episodes of Hugh and I from 1966, Beau Jesters, there's a P.G. Woodhouse, The World of Worcester, Jeeves and the Great Sermon, some episodes of Survival, Harry Worth.
Which was shown on the day Kennedy was
the Harry Worth, Here's Harry the Musician, 22nd of November 1963.
Yes.
So they announced that Kennedy was dead and still showed Harry Worth.
Well, but I think in that context you would need to. If you've had a major tragic event like that happen, you need some lightness.
Yes.
So you need some comedy.
But was it Jack Woolgar was in it?
Yes.
And what's his son?
I can't remember what he's called.
Oh, his son was on the Kaleidoscope saying that he remembers seeing this episode because they moved house that day, and they had fish and chips, and his dad was on the telly in Harry Worth, which I thought was a wonderful memory. So we've a couple of episodes of Survival, Work, Mining, which is some school's programme, presented by Sylvester McCoy. But the big one, they left the best one till last.
Massive
Not
moves.
1 but 2 episodes of Z-Cars.
Yay! Hooray!
From Family Feud and Affray from 1962.
Yes.
Both of which are meant to be very good.
Yes.
David's books gave us more details on that. Family Feud, I don't think there are any telly snaps for it either.
I think he struggled a lot for that one.
Yeah, so
in fact, there's actual moving pictures now.
Affray has got still does have telly snaps. But Family Feud was again briefly featured on the Newsnight.
Yes.
It's the two women arguing
in the kitchen, and it's such a tiny clip, but it makes me want to see the episode so badly.
It's so well written.
It's very well written and very well acted.
And I like the way she pours treacle all over the spoons.
Over a best silver. Yeah.
So yeah, we just want a Z-Cars black and white release.
Please, somebody release some black and white Z-Cars.
Because there would be some very happy
there'd
people
be at least
here.
10 of us that were happy.
That's true. So yes, this has been exciting. Power of the Daleks is coming out as the animation this week, isn't it? So episode 1 we watched
last night.
Episode 2 we'll do
later on
today.
Yep, very good.
That's all exciting.
Very, very good.
DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that.
Yeah, we'll
coming.
be getting both.
Will we? Okay.
Yeah, I might as well just hang my whole salary over to the BBC and network.
Fair enough. But yeah, so it's all been an exciting few weeks for archive nerds like us.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll carry on with the issue next with part 3, I believe, of the interview with Mr. Nick Goodman.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and then we'll come back and see you soon.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Just a couple quick more. What missing episodes of anything are highest on your list to find? So any series that's missing, what would you most like back?
I mean, I'm torturously torn between Doctor Who and Doomwatch. Yeah.
I guess that would be. You can
have one from you.
Yes. You can choose several series and several episodes.
I think
if you've got a top list,
I think
will be on
Doomwatch. I think we'd have back because we've sort of got Survival Code.
I thought you'd say that.
Fire and Brimstone, I would love to see. I've got the script at
Ridge
home.
With the Anthrax.
Ridge with the Anthrax. It's such a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think you
That's
need
the Radio Times cover.
Yes.
The famous picture.
Yes, which I've got on my phone.
Yes.
You've
just showed
me. That's such a game changer. I mean, it got a lot of stick at the time for melodramising that's not a word, is it? No, melodramatise. No, that's...
we'll take it as read. We know what you're saying.
I don't think Kit Pedler liked it very much, but I think Terence Dudley is actually a very, very underrated writer. I like his stuff very much. He might have had a different take on the show than Kit and Jerry, and that's fine. But I did actually admire his writing very much. I've got the script with, say, Michael Seeley did, and it's fab, and I'd love to see it. Say Knife Fat Man's another one. That's Liz Sladen.
I was going to say that's the Liz Sladen one.
That's very exciting. Got a young Anthony Andrews in it.
Because we've seen some of her Z-Cars. We've seen the Z-Cars. Is it one or two she's in? I think we've got one. I don't know whether she did another one. I can't remember, but yeah. And then she's also in Some Mothers Do Have 'Em as well. There's just in the sort of Greengrocers or something. But yeah, it'd be nice to get that one.
It would be nice. Just trying to think.
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who.
What do you want back there?
I have to say, I'll put in a little dreamy thing here, but one of my favourite Doctor Who experiences was getting to see Enemy of the World and Web of Fear. That really was a special thing for me because that was they were top of my list.
I know you'd always said
always
how good Enemy of the World was, and I'd never been that convinced.
No, I loved it.
But now you was right.
I never had a moment's doubt that it was brilliant. I just love doppelgangers and double stories, and I love David Whittaker. Yeah, I love his stories. He was a wonderful writer, and very poetic but without pretension. But yes, that aside, anyway, it was lovely to have them back. Thank you very much, restoration team, everyone involved in bringing that back to life. I think, there was a big rumour that Marco Polo was coming back. There was kind of, the carpet was pulled from under that quite a lot. I would like to think it is out there because I've met half the cast at an event, and they would, get them all and it's the oldest living episode. You know what I mean? The oldest missing episode. That's the word. And it would complete the first season quite nicely. Celestial Toymaker is a story I've always admired. I think it's a brilliant, simple but very creepy idea, and yes, I think by modern standard, yes, it would creak very badly, but I would love to see it. From Troughton, I'm going to be controversial here.
Go on. Oh, please.
In the best traditions
We need a
of
bit of
Space Pirates, best traditions of RPS, Space Pirates.
Okay, fine.
Because it's actually, I prefer it as a Bob Holmes story. I prefer it to Spearhead. I'm not afraid to say that it's got all whimsical characterization with Milo Clancy. It's got lots of lovely twists. I think the best of which you don't see, because I've got the audio CD of it, and I just think it's a good romp, and it gets a mauling, and when it shouldn't get a mauling, in my humble opinion. But it's I would like to see it come back just to irritate people.
Oh, fair enough. That's a good enough reason. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's. I mean, I suppose if I could have one more, I would say probably Evil of the Daleks.
Okay.
I think it's too long. First episode faffs around, and then I think probably it's not the stuff on the Skaro isn't as interesting as the Victorian stuff. Okay. But again, it's a really different kind of Dalek story, and. But yeah. So
any other series that I think like Ace of Wands?
Yes, Ace of Wands. Yes.
Because I think both Lisa and I would love to see Russell Hunter as Mr. Stabs.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
He's Serpents, Sulphur and Salt.
Yes,
that's what it's called.
Everybody talks about it. Everybody associated with the show says it's their favourite story. So yes, it would have to be seen. I think. I mean, in a way, we've got a sneaky. Look at what it might have been like with the Shadows episode. Dutch shoes,
which we can't say.
Fine friends. But yeah, I mean, what a fantastic actor Russell Hunter was. I mean, he could go from that.
I think we only saw him once in a convention.
We didn't know anything about him,
and we didn't know about Mr. Stabs really at that point. We'd heard about it, but we didn't realise how. Probably good it was.
Yeah, I mean it's a shame. It's a smashing. I mean I've heard an audio recording of it, and that's pretty good. So yes, I think yes, because I'm just desperately trying to think of the other series that have been wiped.
You can email it in later. It's all right, don't worry.
But yeah, I would say I go with that Seven Serpents. Yeah.
Okay, and finally,
yes.
What old telly have you got on the go at the moment?
On the go at the moment, Michael, I've got. Well, we've just finished Nobody's House, which was released in the summer. On these days, DVD releases, they tend. If I tend to the ones I tend to really like to go for. There's only about one or two that are released each year. The treats for me this year have been Doomwatch.
Yes.
And finally Nobody's House.
Yes. We've got that. Haven't watched it yet.
What my wife and I have Sunday specials. What we call we go through one series and do an episode a week. I choose one, then she chooses one, and surprise, I actually contrived it so that we do Doomwatch as soon as it came out.
Oh, right.
So we've been doing Doomwatch. We're up to Public Enemy, which 625 line. Hey. Looking forward to that.
Feel the quality.
And so I mean, it would have been nice to have had loads of money spent on it, restoring it.
Well, it wasn't really going to happen,
and a booklet, but. I know it wasn't.
Yes, some of the tapes are in a bit of a state, yes, and you can see that.
But fundamentally, I'm absolutely
at least
delighted.
We can see it.
It's out there, official at last. And think about it: sex and violence. The first time it's been shown ever, really, officially.
Because we had a copy of it, but was it broadcast on UK? What were you laughing at?
No, it wasn't. No, I don't think
it ever
was.
Was it on UK Gold? No. Trying to work
this
out where
is its
it came
first
from,
sort of.
We must have got it. By some other means,
fallen from the sky at night.
I don't know where that came from.
In a fire.
It was just about in colour. I think that copy, because our Doomwatch tapes of the 90s were flickering to black and white sometimes.
It was, but so that's we're up to Public Enemy. So we're doing Fallen Rise of Reginald Perrin, which turns 40 this autumn. It still remains my favourite sitcom. I do love it to bits. It works on so many levels, and I have to say, having reached the age the character was when the series started, I can thoroughly sympathise with his frustrations of middle age and general weirdness that goes in on your head. But that aside, you've got, I mean, it's an immaculate series. You've got Rossiter's comic timing and end-to-end class. So we're doing the series from the beginning and cross-cutting it with the Yes Minister.
Oh.
So we're doing a Reggie and we're doing a Minister.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And so
I've got the books of Yes Minister, and I've read them so many times. Those books are actually starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and my mum's got one.
Those
the script
are
books.
really, really good scripts.
Yeah, from about 82, I think they were released.
Yeah.
But we're also doing. We've just done John Pertwee's third season, so we're up to Time Monster, which is, I have to say, as I've got the opportunity, the airtime, a monstrously underrated story. No pun
I remember
intended.
you had the script for episode 1. Have you still got that?
I've still got that.
Ooh,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I
we did a comic version of it,
and I adore Time Monster. I think maybe Kronos is not quite as well realised, but lovely story.
Yeah.
And very big ideas as well. But what else have we got? We're doing the wonderful Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Watching Sir Alex Truss's stuff. That's a good romp. What else have we got? What else have we got lined up? I think that's it at the moment. We usually have because we've been watching. Doing the fan thing of watching Doctor Who from the beginning, but of the 50th anniversary, ever since the 50th anniversary. So we saw Unearthly Child about the right time on the 50th anniversary, and we've been following Hartnell since. So we're up to the Smugglers, which obviously we can't see.
I quite like the Smugglers.
I love the Smugglers. I think it's great.
All the location work looks really nice.
That and the Highlanders, I wouldn't be disappointed to have those back either. I think they're two nice little romps. But yes, so we're doing that. We'll do 10th Planet after that. I've got the other Who's I've got lined up. Mask of Mandragora, which also turns 40, and we fancied season 18 as well. So we're doing Leisure Hive at some point. So.
Well, that sounds like
we
be going on with it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and at some point we'll have a life somewhere. Somewhere.
I wouldn't worry about that.
But no, so we've always got some classic TV on the go. In fact, we watch nothing else really, but there's nothing else on.
Just like us.
Yes.
Okay, Nick, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
That was lovely.
Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, well, if you want. Okay, thank you. And thanks again to Nick for his lovely interview. Hopefully we'll see him return in future issues. But now, today, we're going to look at our sort of first major look at a series for this issue, and that series is none other than Pipkins.
Pipkins?
Pipkins.
Okay. Why Pipkins?
Well, you wanted to do it.
Okay.
Why? Don't blame me. Why did you want to do Pipkin? Or Inigo Pipkin, as it should be called, because that's what Series 1 is called.
Yeah, no, only the first two series.
Series 1 is Inigo Pipkin.
And Series 2 is Inigo Pipkin.
Series 2 is Imigo?
Inigo.
And then Series 3 is just Pipkins.
Well, that's because Mr. Pipkin died.
Because Mr. Pipkins dies during Series 2.
Yeah.
But he
goes fishing a lot in Series 2.
Yes. Let's start at the beginning, though. Why did you want to buy loads and loads of episodes of Pipkins?
You played it to death.
I kept playing the title sequence.
And it got into my head like an earworm.
All right.
And I thought, well, perhaps we should see some Pipkins.
Okay.
And we saw some Pipkins, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
What did you think it was going to be like then?
Well, I thought Hartley Hare was quite scary, and he's not.
He's actually probably one of the least scary things in Pipkins, isn't it?
Yes.
So what's more scary than Hartley Hare?
Pig.
Pig?
Pig.
Why is Pig scary?
Because he's all mouldery and falling apart. He looks like a zombie pig. He looks like what's coming in your brains.
Well, again, but that's only some of the pigs.
Yeah, some of the pigs. But unfortunately,
Because
all the episodes that exist seem to feature that pig.
Yeah. I think we should explain that, because this is going to confuse people. Inigo Pipkin, as played by George Woodbridge, was a man who made puppets.
Yes.
This was for a kids series made by ITV.
Yeah, it's a lunchtime slot,
starting 1st of January 1973.
Yeah, sort of like Rainbow kind of.
And the opening titles is basically him beckoning you into his puppet shop.
Quite creepily.
You couldn't get away with that title sequence these days.
No.
You then get a montage of him doing
making puppets and doing a puppet show.
Yeah, he's got a sort of puppet, sort of Punch and Judy booth thing, hasn't he?
Yes.
And there's these photographs of kids, and they look petrified.
Just look really scared.
There's one that looks on the verge of tears.
Yes. It's going to just burst out crying in the next second.
But to quote the TV Times write-up for episode 1, "This is Mr. Pipkin's workshop. Come on in and look around. See all those puppets? Well, Mr. Pipkin made them, and they are rather special, for they can dance and sing just like humans." I'm already terrified by this.
I have to say as well, in the shot where you see him beckoning and waving to you, because at the end he waves goodbye to you, he's got a round head puppet in the window.
Has he?
Yeah, so it's like he recreates war games.
Okay.
So he's going to draw the malice in.
Puppet malice.
What is a puppet malice?
Yeah. But episode 2 is Top Off the Monkey.
Yeah.
Mr. Pipkin and Johnny's his sort of assistant,
yes,
have finished making a monkey puppet, but as Hartley Hare points out, it doesn't move.
No.
Episode 3, a name for the monkey.
Yeah.
Now that the monkey...
It's called Top Off!
I know, they said that in episode 2, yeah. But episode 3, now that the monkey can move... Mr. Pipkin and Johnny think very hard for a name. They asked Tortoise... He's called Top Off.
Because he sits on top of things.
Top Off things. They asked Tortoise for help. What can they call the newcomer?
Yeah. And I would just put out the first Top Off scary as well.
Oh, that's the Spider Monkey one, isn't it?
Yeah,
with
it's got
cold dead eyes and a white face and a hat and a sort of beard, straggly beard.
Thing. The second Top Off, who's got Danish pastry ears, is much cuter. He's really quite
like
endearing.
cinnamon whirls,
cinnamon whirls,
for ears.
Yeah.
But a
lot
of the first series ones is him making puppets, because later on he makes Octavia the ostrich.
Yeah.
And it does sound all a bit like Crowman-ish from Wurzel Gummidge. Like he brings them to life, and But I mean, the star of the show is really Hartley Hare, isn't it?
And he is as camp as a big row of tents.
As camp as pink frilly tents, in fact.
Pink frilly tents that are leaning over camply.
Played by the wonderful Nigel Plaskett.
Yes, he does a lot of the other voices as well.
Unstoff in Doctor Who, the Reboss Operation. He also does the voice of Tortoise.
Yeah. And Mooney.
But
He's a badger.
But the problem with doing any article about Pipkins is so much of it is missing.
Yes.
They made 313 episodes, and 77 survive, of which most of them are
home recordings by
Nigel Plastick. He's not an auton. Nigel Plastick, the auton.
Even.
Yeah. The earliest surviving episode is Bertha and Hartley clean up.
I would point out, Hartley doesn't do much cleaning up.
Where he just sort of
Hartley
sings.
sort of just sits there and sings, and he's annoying.
When's that from? 73 or? I got to see where that's from. Oh, there we go. No, it could be series 2 actually. Yeah, it's episode 27. That's from series 2, and that's the earliest surviving episode. Then the next one is An Old Glass Door, and these are the only 2 complete ones with George Woodbridge in.
Yes.
There's a couple of like sort
Bits
of
and pieces.
bits and pieces at the end of tapes.
Yeah.
One of which is mostly this animation of shapes.
Yes.
And weirdly, the music does sound a bit like the music used by Talc and Turnips on Vic Ree's Big Night Out.
All right,
but I
I'll
think
take your word for that.
That's just, I think that's a coincidence. Well,
Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe not.
But yeah, of the first 2 seasons, that's pretty much your lot. George Woodbridge dies halfway through making series 2.
Sadly,
so the series then becomes Pipkins.
Yes.
And the first episode from that does survive. Johnny's flat, Hartley's office.
Yeah, and that's Johnny moving in with all this stuff.
Yeah, because Pig's really concerned that Mr. Pipkins is dead.
And nobody's going to feed
because
them.
there's no money to buy food, basically.
Well, there's no food, is there?
There's no food. Yeah, because
What kind of accent was that?
Oh, you do accents. Well,
I
you
can't
don't do accents.
I can't
but
do that
Explain what there's various regional accents
Well,
here.
well,
Pig is
Hartley's RP,
Yeah.
isn't he? Hartley's very much he's a BBC
he's flamboyant
hair.
RP.
Yes, a flamboyant RP.
His uncle is
he's
sort of yokel,
Yes, so
but
he
it's
just-
the voice that Nigel Plaskett does for when
Unstoff's being the
Unstoff's trying to be the like,
yokel,
oh sir,
yeah.
that'd be a springstone.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah. Well, that's probably because that's the only yokel accent he can do.
yeah.
So that's Tortoise is sort of
Brummy,
sort of
Brummy.
Yeah. Pig's Brummy.
Yeah.
Depending on which particular actress is, because it's always a woman.
Yeah, various people play
him. So
play
he's
Pig.
variously more brummy than others in various different things. Top Off's sort of meant to be Cockney, but the first Top Off is a bit more common than the second Top Off.
That was another reason you didn't like the original Top Off, because it was quote common.
It was common. Yes.
I like that. Mrs. P. Now, Mrs. P is the
P
penguin.
She's a housekeeper, and apparently, when they get a housekeeper, they have to get a housekeeper because Octavia can't be the housekeeper.
Octavia the ostrich.
Octavia the
'Cause she
ostrich.
just sheds feathers everywhere,
and
really.
she's French. That's not why she can't be a housekeeper, but she smashes stuff with her feet. But it does say that Octavia can't do it because she smashes stuff with her feet, which infers that nobody else can do it. So,
Right.
because being a housekeeper is a woman's job.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow. This is the 70s.
I know, but it's very, very sexist.
Yeah. But Mrs. P,
Yeah, she's
we
sort of
finally
Newcastle.
found some footage
Yeah,
of Mrs.
there's
P.
not much of Mrs. P.
Mrs. P is the penguin housekeeper, and she's like the Katerina of Pipkins, in that virtually nothing of her survives. We found a couple of scenes on, what was it? On the Canal,
On the canal,
which
yeah.
is most of an episode that survives, but it's missing the start.
He forgot to put the tape on.
Yeah. We should mention Pipkins.net, which goes into intricate detail about tapes and program
what's
guides
going
and everything.
on. And,
If you like your tape nerdery, it's really good about
it's about as nerdy as you can get.
pneumatics and 2-inch tapes and N1500s and all this.
I somehow think that Nigel Plaskett didn't work all that out.
Well, no, there's one which weirdly credits Nigel Plaskett at the end as playing Father Christmas. I don't quite know what
he's
that
playing
is,
Father Christmas.
what all that's about. But
Yeah. Although there are other characters in Pipkins.
Yes.
There's Mrs. Muddle, who's the next door neighbour.
that's Sue
Nichols, who's also meant to go
it's around
round
about the same time, because she doesn't come in towards later on, does he?
Yeah. And she comes from sort of, she's got a black country accent.
Yeah.
Basically, she's doing the accent she did when she was in Crossroads,
Yeah.
I think.
We've seen the one where she puts on this like puppet show with vegetables, doesn't she?
with the shopping, so there's bread and there's various
the bread
things.
is it an elephant?
Bread's an elephant, yeah.
There's a
stick stuff into
tiger
it.
that's played by a banana with some tape
Tape
stuck on
stuck
it
around it.
to
Some
make
gaffer
the
tape on it.
stripes. It's really, really poor. And there's the crocodile's played by a cucumber, isn't it?
Yeah, and they sort of gouge it out to make a mouth.
I mean, at this point, we should really like give credit to everybody that's playing against the puppets, because they are playing it really for real, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you've played with. I was going to say you've played with puppets. You've played against.
I have played against
You've
puppets.
acted with
I've
puppets
acted with puppets
in Sutton Park, Paul Chandler's
mostly
series.
Father Christmases.
Yeah,
And a witch.
But I've played with played with hand puppets. Oh God, yes. There's Hartley. There's the episode where Hartley gets a hand puppet, Michael, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is so full of innuendo.
It is. It's really
Hello,
funny.
I've been to the toy shop, and can you guess what I've bought? Yes, a hand puppet. Oh, you can do lots of things with a hand puppet. You can put it on your hand, and you can play with it. Oh, you can be very naughty with a hand puppet. Can't you? Come along, Michael. Yes. Oh, he's been very naughty.
Yeah. He's never been more Kenneth Williams at that point.
Yeah, this is just Nigel Plaskett playing Kenneth Williams as a rabbit, isn't it?
A hare.
A hare. I do beg your pardon. Yes, a hare.
Yeah. I think he'd object to the word
But
rabbits.
other humans, we should talk about that.
There's
So
Johnny's
the first.
Mr. Pipkin's assistant.
Yeah, at the
and then
start.
he leaves. And his sister comes into it as a bit on and off, Bertha.
Yes.
And then after Johnny, there's Tom.
Jonathan Kidd.
Yeah, and then he goes to leave to be in the circus for some inexplicable reason. Then after Tom, you get Peter.
Is it Peter? Peter Potter?
Peter
Paddy
Potter,
O'Hagan?
yeah. And you've also got Charlie, who's a dustman.
Oh, yes, Charlie the Dustman.
And slightly
Simple.
yeah. Wasn't going to say that, but never mind.
There's the bag lady, apparently, played by Heather Tobias.
The bag lady?
Yes, I don't know
Oh
what
my
that's
God.
about. That's the trouble with so much of this missing.
Yeah.
You can't really sort of work out what's going on some of the time. But the DVDs,
Yes.
we have to say, Network have put so much effort into
Yes,
these DVDs.
they've even made new versions of the puppets. And Pig is a lot less scary.
Yeah, I mean, I do love the footage of the commentary.
Yeah, they've done for one of the episodes.
They Nigel Plaskett and who's playing Pig at this point? Is it
Heather
Tobias?
Yeah.
Sat on the sofa, and I think it did look a bit like us doing the podcast. Didn't it?
Yeah.
They start giggling.
She's
and,
eating crisps. Pig's eating
making
crisps.
noises and things like that.
Yeah, and you did point out that the Hartley hair in that looks a lot better than the Hartley hair did originally, and he's fatter.
Oh, they have done a
Because he's
new
older.
episode as well.
Yes.
And what I love that Network have put they've put their DVD release of Strange Report in the background, so you can see it.
Just stick a load of our releases in the background.
Yeah, that's rather good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've enjoyed. I think we've enjoyed seeing
enjoyed
what
what we've
we haven't
seen.
seen everything by any
No.
means. But I think it's worth a look.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's as I said, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and I was surprised to hear that the puppets look ratty, but apparently
No, they're meant to look ratty because they're like made out of
they're
old socks and things
handmade.
like that. Yeah.
But apparently the pig's wearing a scarf because there was a hole in his neck and you could see the
that's
puppet's
right. Yeah,
fingers. So they had to put a scarf around his neck.
We did spot Nigel Plaskett's head
and we
today,
did spot
didn't
Nigel
we?
Plaskett's head today, yes.
That originally the set was just on ground level.
Yeah. After the Muppet Show came,
But the Muppet Show was recording next door,
and they raised all the stages up for the Muppet Show, and they went, "We should do that."
Yeah, because
they
originally all
look
the puppeteers were like hidden behind like
furniture,
tables and coat stands and
it's like being pregnant in a soap.
Yeah, and really sort of in horrible contorted positions, doing your back in.
Yeah.
Once you raise the set a couple of feet up, you can actually stand up and you don't hurt yourself.
It's a little bit more dangerous for the other actors because you have to be careful you don't fall off the stage.
I haven't seen that happen yet. Yeah. I've just noticed Royce Mills gets a credit there.
Oh, Royce Mills.
Fred Pipkin, Royce Mills.
Oh, he's the nephew.
Is he?
Yeah, none of his stuff exists.
No, right, okay. All right, okay. Well, yes, but there we go. Pipkins.
Yeah, give it a go.
We're giving it a go.
It's not as bad as you think it's going to be.
And now we're going to hand back over to Warren for part 2 of his interview. See you soon.
Bye.
Okay. There's a heading here which I've just written down which says local programs for local people.
Oh, lovely.
Because you again are a southern boy.
I am some with a brief Westwood.
With a bit of Westwood as well.
I'm probably one of the few people who actually remember Westwood still knocking around. Dodgy, because we lived in Somerset for a couple of years before we came back to Dorset, and Westwood was our local. And there is one creature from Westwood television.
Would that be Gus Honeybun?
It
by
would
any
be
chance?
Gus Honeybun.
Explain Gus Honeybun and how it worked.
Gus Honeybun was a puppet. And funny enough, I work with a young lady called Honeybun. And I said, "Where did your name come from?" And she says, "It's an old Cornish name." I said, okay, yeah. I said, and she's the same age as me. She says, and I'm not named after that bleeding rabbit. I said, oh, so you remember Gus Honeybun too? Yes. He was this puppet that used to appear on early morning Saturday television. And the presenter would be a young lady, and she would read out people's birthdays.
Mm-hmm. So it was Gus Honeybun's Magic Birthdays.
Yes.
Was the actual
Yeah,
show.
that's it, yeah. I just remember it was a Gus Honeybun show, but yeah, and it would do this thing called Bunny
Hops.
which consisted of the person operating it just moving their hand up and down. But the thing was made of wood, so it made a clunking sound. But the thing was so animated, and because it was made of wood, it made so much noise, didn't it? It just clunked around everywhere, and it didn't actually speak.
It would wink.
Yes,
and it had a magic button.
Oh, yes. And yeah, but it would be one of those things where you turn the head and it would have to go slowly down.
Yes.
So it's sort of my nan. I can't say it now. A really evil wink at you, as if to say, "Yeah, I'm coming for your
Apparently,
soul."
12 was the official age limit for having a birthday read out on air. If you were 40, they pretended you were 4. But I would read the name Gus Honeybun in things like Lookin', because it would list all the regions.
La 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 la. Looking.
And I always used to think that was Gordon Honeycomb. Because I would
It's Gus Honeybun reading the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah, Gordon Honeycomb being the sort of, serious news presenter. But I couldn't see why you would like sort of, I was going to say wink at children. But Gus Honeybun was also parodied on Victoria Wood.
Really?
As seen on TV. There's the continuity announcer that Susie Blake did.
Yeah.
And she's got this character, Wally Wallaby. And was it, can I have 15 Wallaby hops? And she goes, no, I'm an announcer, not Fatima Whitbread. But I knew what they were referring to, but I was trying to work out how many people in the UK at that time would have known, because it was very much a West Country thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So how Victoria Wood knew about it, I don't know. But
moving back onto something that's close to our hearts, Southern television.
Southern television.
Oh, run in Southampton for the South Coast. There's this wonderful television service called Southern, started up in late 50s?
I will
60s.
look up Southern. Hang on. Give me a chance. This is the good thing about having the internet open at the time.
But
keep going.
I would say Southern television was very good for its independent local programmes and also the national programmes that it put out.
August 1958 till December 1981. Southern TV.
I remember the last one.
Yes.
I remember the last one. Farewell to all that. But it was very much a inclusive television station. You always got sort of drawn into your own local service. We had Out of Town with Jack Hargreaves.
I have written down Out of Town.
Marvellous.
Explain Out of Town.
Old man sat in shed with a load of nails, putting false fish on the end of a hook, going fishing.
Yes, Jack Hargreaves. This week I'm going fishing, but again, that was the inspiration for the Fast Show.
Oh, Bob Fleming.
Yes, he led. We've got some lovely old farming. Excuse me. But Jack Hargreaves would sort of do some ploughing or something, or go to a country fair.
Lama Tree. He went to Lama Tree Festival, and I was in the school. Were doing a adaptation of. Oh Lord, who the? Lisa, help me out.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Toll Puddle Martyrs. Thank you. I'm glad you mind that. You weren't there. We did the Toll Puddle Martyrs, and he was sat at the edge of the stage.
What, Jack Hargreaves?
Hargreaves, and it must have been 950 about then. And then he was giving a speech at the end, just to say well done to all the acts and everything. And he was puffing on his pipe, and he wandered over, took his hat off, and he said, "That was very, very good. Thank you all for coming," and walks off. And the man's a legend. He was so laid back and relaxed. All he did was sit there and puff on his pipe.
Didn't you say to me a while ago that Jack Hargreaves' advice to actors who do pipe parts?
Yes, about talking, isn't it?
If you were playing a part and you're your character is smoking the pipe,
Keep
most
the
people
pipe
get
in
it
their
wrong.
mouth. Yes, they take the pipe out of their mouth.
To say the line.
A real pipe smoker
Keeps
keeps
it
it in his mouth. In fact, there's a very good, interesting interview on the interweb with Jack Hargreaves, and goes through his entire life. Second World War hero.
All right.
He was on the board for Southern Telly.
Yes.
And how could we not mention how?
Well,
Moving on to
I've got a whole list of ones here. So how
with Fred Dinage? There's another legend for
science
you, isn't it?
science program explanation for kids. So like Jack Hargreaves would show you how to make a ship in a bottle every week. Yeah, usually,
literally every week.
John Miller would like set light to wire wool with a battery.
Yes.
There's a clip knocking around of him how to make fires. Basically, try that at home. Yes, you've got how. You've got freewheelers. That's Southern. Do you want to talk about freewheelers very briefly?
Deborah Padbury? Wendy Padbury in season 4, isn't she?
Yes.
Freewheelers starts off initially as a group of kids led by Robert Lee Hunt, who plays these unconvincing characters in costume. I think it started off black and white, didn't it? And late 60s.
Ronald Lee Hunt.
You
said Robert. Yeah,
did I say Robert?
I think you did.
Poor lad.
Yes. Here's some screenshots. Hang on. Freewheelers with Tom Owen, Jeffrey Toone, Chris Chattel, Ronald Lee Hunt, Richard Shaw, Michael Ripper, Wendy Padbury, Adrian Wright. There's Wendy Padbury.
They made stories, and then there were no. They were given 8 stories to write, the writers, and there was no limits. Write what you want, and we will work around it. And it's evident throughout the stories. I mean, it lurches from starting off on the Isle of Wight in season 4 to Weymouth Harbour for some bizarre reason on the boat. Belonging to is it the Colonel? Is it the?
Well, there's some ex-Nazi von Gelb.
God, yes, who wants to, that's the first 2 seasons. He wants to take over the world, and he
reversed the verdict of the last war.
Yes, poisoned all the water with some truth serum in the first series, and
104 episodes over 8 series were made.
Horrendous.
The first 5 series were all wiped by Southern.
Southern are very good at drama, and they are very good, and that was always the mark of watching ITV. Each region produced its own drama, but not every. So you had your big players, you had your Thames Telly, you had your Granadas, but when you had something that was from your region produced.
Yeah, that was for you.
Pride. Yeah,
that was for you.
And Southern was really, with the exception of things like House Party.
I have written down House Party.
House Party.
Yes, House Party is set in supposedly set in somebody's living room or something.
It's the WI.
And the doorbell would go, and somebody would come in, and.
But it was a continuous episode, wasn't it? Because I
don't know whether they were stuck outside for 15 minutes and then right, you go on now.
Yeah, because it'd be bizarre. They'd be talking about knitting
or jam,
and then doorbell will go.
Oh, so and so's come,
and a couple of other people will disappear off, and a couple of old crones will come in.
I think it was just who had to go to the bar next. Yeah. It was
oh, you had to be lashed for that one.
Yes, House Party. Yes,
and the strange thing about that was it was 25 minutes, and the titles would roll whilst the programme was still going on, so it's continuously being filmed.
Yes, briefly, I'm going to jump over to BBC. Stop laughing at House Party. I'm going to jump over briefly to BBC South. There wasn't much actual.
Oh no! I know
you know where we're going with this.
We're heading for a pink caravan, aren't we?
Hey, look, that's me. Doing what I want to do.
Being what I want to be. Hey, look, that's me.
Come on, explain to our.
At the end of regional, usually on a
the
Friday,
poor people who have never experienced Hey Look That's Me, what
regional
that is.
TV, switch over at 6:30,
yeah,
and you would have your news. Was it regional magazine programme?
Something like that. Yeah.
And at the end there'd be the bit for the kids.
Yeah,
and it was called Hey You, That's Me.
Hey Look, That's Me.
And it was introduced.
Hey You.
Introduced by Chris Harris, and he towed a very, very, very small pink wooden caravan with a door and a window and chintzy curtains
Yes.
on the end of a bicycle, and he would turn up at all sorts of events. Sometimes they were advertising events for something that was going to happen at the weekend, but it was basically he would sit inside the caravan, which amazingly seemed larger on the inside than
It
it
was
on the
funny,
out.
that.
Yes. And it's light-hearted. It was for children. It was a 5-minute vox
It was
box.
basically kids that could do stuff.
Yeah.
So if you could like act or swim or something,
That-
or even if you couldn't, frankly, in some cases.
So it's being what you want to be.
I do
Yeah.
remember, and I've never been able to track it down, and it might be a false memory. 2 lads who did their own Doctor Who adventures using their mouths.
I don't remember that one.
On Hey Look That's Me, and it was one of those things where it was going to be about 1979, and he had the 2 sort of lads in the studio or whatever, and it's one of those occasions when I remember being slightly embarrassed at being a Doctor Who fan, because they were doing like the noise of the TARDIS with their mouth, you know. And I've never seen the clip since, and I don't know if it still exists, but yeah, it's one of those things that sort of stuck with me. That's what I remember about that. Anyway, I think we've talked enough about local programming.
Gummidge. Can we
Yes.
just finish on a high with Gummidge then?
Oh, get all words of Gummidge.
Got to have a
You've
Gummidge.
got to say
Now,
Gummidge.
Gummidge is
all right.
internationally famous.
Yes.
And I know yourself and Lisa are great purveyors of the written word.
Aye.
And there are many original Gummidge publications
Yes.
I can see from here.
we've got a pile of Gummidge over
Pile
there.
of Gummidge over there. But the person you have to thank for that is John.
John Pertwee.
John Pertwee is the immortal Gummidge, and he grasps the idea and runs with it. He is there. He draws you in. As a child, you can sit and they can play as much dribble on television as you like. But you've got to be invited into that world. If you don't feel as though you're invited into that world, you won't embrace it. You won't believe it. With Gummidge, you were there. You were the 2 children exploring with him, watching through their eyes his world, how he behaved, and the characters. You've got Una Stubbs
Yeah.
and Barbara Windsor. You've got people like Bill Maynard,
Yeah.
and you've got the Crowman.
Jeffrey Belden being wonderful.
Yeah. And
Bonkers.
Bonkers. Yeah. And
Nothing wrong with that.
Jeffrey Belden was Catweasel to me, as far as I was concerned, but he's somebody completely different here. And you're looking at him going, you're commanding all these scarecrows. You've got the respect to them. You've got the respect of a complete world that we know nothing about. I want to know more about it. And John would take you on these harebrained adventures of doing silly things. But it was a southern, what you would say, well, this is a little regional TV studios producing something that's become an international hit. And that's the thing. If they get something that's good and they've got the right team, you as a child would sit there and watch it forever. I've got the DVDs, and you sit there and you think, oh, this is beautiful.
There's a certain very good book we must recommend as well by
Yeah.
Milk Publishing, all about Wurzel Gummidge. So
There's your plug there now,
there's your,
folks.
there's your plug, boys.
But yeah, Gummidge is you got to.
Gummidge is the man.
Gummidge is the man. If
Or
we're
the
finishing on
scarecrow.
regional telly, Gummidge is your man.
And thanks to Warren for his
Yes, thank you, Warren.
interviewingness.
Interviewing us
That's a good word, isn't it? He will be back in the future.
in the next episode.
Well, possibly.
Or edition. Or
Whatever it is.
whatever it is that we're calling these things.
I don't know. But some odds and ends from Pipkins.
Right.
We said it was made by ITV, but
Yeah.
we should have been more specific. And although you'd probably guess it from the jingle,
Yeah.
it was actually made by ATV in Birmingham.
In
hence-
colour.
In colour. ATV. Thank you. So hence the Brummie accents.
Yeah,
For
the
a few
couple of
people.
Brummie accents.
Mrs. P, though's got a
Yes.
Newcastle accent.
Yes, she
Um,
does. Yeah.
But nobody ever says to her, "How if you're a penguin, how come you sound like you're from the north?" Because
Right.
penguins live at the South Pole, you see.
Okay. Well,
Um,
perhaps she's
Perhaps
been
she
travelling.
came. Well, perhaps she wandered in from like an episode of The Likely Lads or
Oh,
something.
was she Terry's girlfriend?
penguin friend.
Penguin friend.
Michael the glove puppet,
Yeah.
is possibly named after Michael
I
Jeans,
think he's named after Michael James.
the producer and director of the episode.
Okay. I think he says it on the Pipkins website.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
In the same way that the robot in Rent-A-Ghost is named Jeremy after Jeremy Swan.
Oh, right, the rubbish
You see.
robot.
The rubbish robot, yes. You said about the theme tune.
Yes.
And how did you describe it?
I described it as being so 70s it hurts.
Oh, did it hurt?
Well, you know what I mean. It's very representative of that particular moment in time.
Okay. But there is a single version done by Jackie Lee, who also
Right.
sang Rupert the Bear and White Horses. There is a
Right.
clip of her singing the Rupert the Bear song from The Golden Shot from 1970, which
Yeah.
was very odd.
Yes, too many Rupert Bears.
Yeah. But the actual single version seems a bit overproduced compared to the sort of ramshackle episodes.
Yeah.
It's all a bit well done, actually.
It is. Well done. Not rubbish.
We might play a little bit of it at this point.
Who's working every day just to make a lot of children happy? Wood, stringing pretty things, making animals for you and me. Whoa, and it go picking, it go picking, it motherfucker me.
There we go. I did notice that I sometimes get Inigo Pipkin's name wrong. When I sing the
Okay.
song, I occasionally refer to him as Indigo Pipkin.
Okay.
Which
Is he violet?
that just means he's like purple or violet or something. But in the article I said Imigo Pipkin.
Okay.
And an imigo is the final mature form of an insect, the form that's grown wings.
Mm-hmm.
So unless he's some sort of unknown variety of Menoptera that wears grey baggy cardigans, I don't know quite what I'm going on about.
No.
Just imagine him beckoning with his wings. Welcome to my puppet shop, Doctor.
Right.
That was
As
my
if
Martin Jarvis
your
impression.
Martin Jarvis impression. I'm sure Martin Jarvis is thrilled.
I'm sure he is. But quickly moving on to the final piece of this episode, stroke edition, stroke issue, we are going to now look at right. We're going to do Callan,
Callan.
aren't we? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And in fact, specifically, we're going to do Callan, the Worst Soldier I Ever Saw, from the 2nd of April 1969,
Yes.
towards the end of Series 2.
In fact, it's about 3 from the end of series
Yes,
2.
there's only 2 episodes after that.
Yes.
This is an interesting episode
It is.
from an archival point of view,
Because it doesn't exist.
because it doesn't exist, but it has been released on DVD.
Yeah. Now, you might be asking, how has it been released on DVD if it doesn't exist?
Because what does exist is the complete studio tape.
Yes.
So Network, being very clever, have been able to
Reconstruct it.
it from the tape. Now the tape is obviously a lot longer than the episode, and
Yes.
we
And we haven't
haven't
watched
haven't
it yet,
actually
no.
plucked up the courage to watch it yet.
Mostly because, it, with all the best will, studio recording is deadly dull.
yeah, we've seen a few studio recordings of Doctor Who, and those just drag on forever.
Getting into the TARDIS and out of the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's time flight.
Yeah.
But Callan, let's explain
Yeah.
what Callan is for those that are unfortunate enough not to know.
Well, if you're unfortunate enough not to know, I recommend you buy the
Oh
Callan
yes,
file
the Callan file is
by
the
Robert Fairclough and Mike Kenwood.
very,
and it's
very
released from Quite Media.
Mhm.
And the website is www.quitemedia.co.uk. And it's the biggest and most detailed book you'll ever read about Callan.
Yes, I think
So
so.
buy it.
Yes. Unfortunately, because we haven't watched all of Callan,
No.
we haven't actually been able to read all of the book
No,
yet,
not
because we
yet.
don't want to
Well, we will.
spoil the episodes.
We will.
But Callan originally began as a armchair theatre
Yeah.
play
Called a Magnum for
for
Schneider.
Schneider.
Featuring none other
Than Joseph First.
who's Professor Zaroff in The Underwater Menace. Memorably, Professor Zaroff in The Underwater Menace. And needless to say, he plays this a lot straighter.
Yes.
in that
But who is
episode.
Callan? Explain.
Callan is a killer.
Callan is a killer.
He's a hired... Well, he's not a hired assassin. He's a government assassin.
Yes, he works for
He works for a secret department. Probably
which is headed-
MI5 or something like that.
which is headed by a
A
person called Hunter.
yes, codenamed Hunter. Or Charlie.
hmm There are various hunters
There are
throughout
various
the series.
hunters throughout the series. I think you get up to about 4.
hmm
Yes, the one that we're mostly watching at the moment being William Squire of the Armageddon Factor fame.
But Magnum for Schneider is 6th of February 1967, and the series itself started in July 67. So there wasn't much of a
No,
gap,
it was an
really.
immediate success. And I think they actually almost sort of repeat a Magnum for Schneider in the first episode of the series, don't they?
Oh, the good ones are all dead. It's a bit of a rewrite.
It's a bit
isn't
of a
it?
rewrite. I think actually Magnum for Schneider gets made about 4 times.
Obviously a good plot.
Because the film version of Callan is another retread of a Magnum for
Oh,
Schneider,
right, okay.
featuring no
not seen that
other than
yet.
Catherine Schell.
Oh, gosh. But series 1 of Callan, episode 1 exists. Then episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5 are missing. And episode 6 exists.
Yeah.
And series 2, it's about sort of 50-50, isn't it?
Yep.
The first 2, then there's
More
one
exist than
missing,
not
then there's
exist.
3 that exist, 2 that are missing, 1 that exists, 3 that are missing, and the last 3 exist.
Yeah.
Counting The Worst Soldier I Ever Saw.
Yes.
But what's the worst soldier I ever saw? The plot here.
The plot is there's a rogue Arab state.
Mm-hmm.
Fancy that. And they want to, the Sultan of this state wants to organise his army.
Yes.
And to organise his army, he needs a general. And obviously the best generals are British. So they approach a character called Brigadier Pringle.
Played by Alan Cuthbertson.
Played by Alan Cuthbertson, who Callan
Mm-hmm.
has had an association with. As he was his commanding officer in Malaya
Mm-hmm.
and got him chucked out of the army.
Yes, he made Callan into a corporal twice.
and
then-
broke him twice.
And broke him back to a private place.
Callan's not really the type to take orders
Yeah.
very easily.
Too much of an individual for the army
Yes,
was
he's
the
too much of an
description.
individual. Yes, you're not allowed to be an individual if you're in the army or if you're a royal personage,
Mm-hmm.
apparently.
But Callan is also assisted by Lonely in this episode.
Yes, played by the absolutely wonderful Russell Hunter,
Yes.
more of whom shortly. And you also feature Anthony Valentine
Yes.
as the
Mears.
Mears. Yes, I was just thinking of a
What-
word to
what is he?
describe him. He is a bit of a
Upper class killer.
yes. That's not the word I was going to use,
Yeah.
but
You were going to use a rude word.
I
were
was
you?
going to use a word. He's not always a very nice man. He's actually softening a little now.
I mean, Callan, we should explain, he's very good at his job, but he
Yes.
doesn't actually
He
enjoy
doesn't
it.
like it.
Yeah.
He's got a conscience, which is a bad thing for a
Because
killer.
I went into this series a bit, wasn't sure, to be honest, because I've always had the thing that I never liked James Bond.
No, you don't identify with the hero.
No.
Not that kind of hero.
Because James Bond is,
He's a
you
killer.
know, yes, but he actually seems to enjoy it.
He does,
And Callan, on the other hand, sort of
Doesn't enjoy it.
really does
No.
not enjoy what
He does it because that's the only thing he's good at.
Yeah, but let's talk about Russell Hunter then.
Yes. Well, Russell Hunter, the lovely Russell Hunter, who we once saw at a convention in Barking, I believe, and very sadly passed away about 12 years ago, is primarily known, well, not primarily, known for Callan. He did a lot of theatre in Scotland, and he's very well known for that. He played Commander Ivanov in Robots of Death, very memorably. And he's also in an episode of A Touch of Frost.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a bit of a guess as to who's shorter, him or David Jason. Because he's not the tallest, wasn't the tallest person in the world. But I regret very much, having seen him at the convention, that we didn't ask him a question. Well, that we didn't. A, I didn't know anything about Callan.
Yeah.
And B, that we didn't ask him a question about Callan. Because he probably got lots of questions about Doctor Who and everything. And, you know, Callan's what he was known for.
But his character's called Lonely,
He is.
but that's not what your mum called him.
No, my mum called him Smelly.
As
Always-
apparently did lots of other people.
Yes. Oh, that's that Smelly from Callan.
Yeah. Because
he was
been
smelly.
reading the book and he got sent loads of deodorants
Yeah.
by people.
Trying to be helpful. the joke being, we should say that Lonely, when he gets nervous, starts to smell quite a lot.
Yes.
And he gets nervous a lot.
But, yes. And
Mr. Stabs as well.
Oh, Mr. Stabs.
He
of
played
course.
Mr. Stabs in Ace of Wands,
Yes.
which doesn't exist,
No.
and in an episode of Shadows,
Which does exist.
which does exist, which we've already mentioned,
Yes.
which is Dutch Slits Shoes. Mr. Stabs then appears again, played by David Jason. There's a lot to do with David Jason in this
weird,
bit,
isn't it?
but not quite as good as Russell Hunter.
Also in this episode, we said about the Brigadier, that's
Yes.
Alan Cuthbertson,
Alan Cuthbertson.
also known as Colonel Hall from Gourmet Night,
Oh,
Fawlty
right,
Towers.
yes.
Yes. It's not cooked, you ignoramus. Oh, would you prefer cooked? Oh, well, of course we prefer a cooked one. Tessa Wyatt,
Tessa Wyatt from Robin's Nest.
yes, and Saeed Jaffrey.
Jeffrey, yep. Oh, and Alan Cuthbertson's in a Whodunit, but not in an Edward Woodward Whodunit.
But yes, Edward Woodward as Callan.
Yes.
Fantastic acting.
He's absolutely marvellous. I mean, there are certain times where I think it's because Network have remade it from studio tapes, but he's sweating so badly. He's putting his all into it.
Yeah. I did notice a bit in this episode where the doorbell rings when he's in the house, and he's made Tessa Wyatt unconscious, and what's he done to the Brigadier? Drugged him or something?
No, Brigadier just goes up for a sleep. I
Yeah.
don't think he does anything to the Brigadier at that point.
But the doorbell goes unexpectedly,
Yeah.
and he just starts sort of clicking his hands and
Yeah.
snapping his fingers.
He's not quite sure what to do.
And that's a really good way of showing that he's suddenly really, really on edge.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very sort of nice, subtle bit of acting there.
Yes. Oh, we should say as well that Edward Woodward had his own variety show
Oh, yes.
and
The
appeared on
Edward
the Good
Woodward Hour.
Yes, and appeared on the Good Old Days several times and had an absolutely marvellous singing voice.
And, of course, also did Whodunit
He did
Series
the
1.
first series of Whodunit. Sadly, he didn't get to do the second series of Whodunit.
He's a
because
little uncomfortable in the first
he is
couple of
a
episodes.
little uncomfortable, and then he settles down towards the end of
Yeah,
it.
although it doesn't help that John Pertwee's being a bit annoying.
Yes, he's being a little obnoxious. I think somebody wanted Edward Woodward's job.
And they ended up with it.
They did.
But yes, we've only got into the colour episodes on season 3. We've only done a few so
Yes,
far.
we must do some more.
So we're about halfway through the run
Yeah.
of the series, which is why we can't read the rest of the book yet. But
I'll watch the documentary.
Or watch the documentary. But we are really enjoying watching it.
We are, yeah. It's a bit hard going sometimes.
It
And
can be fairly grim.
And it
yes.
doesn't often end well.
Yes.
But there is a lovely scene at end of one of the episodes after everything's sorted out where he cuddles a cat.
Oh, yes, he likes cats.
So Callan's a cat man. So that makes him all right in my book.
And we went to Oxford a few months
We
ago,
did go to
didn't
Oxford
we?
a few months ago, yes.
And
Yes.
actually stood in the place where they put the camera for the episode Little Bits and Pieces of Love.
Yes.
Because there's a shot of Broad Street in that
Yes.
episode, and I got quite excited because I know Broad Street.
You do, yes.
Looking sort of northwards up towards ultimately up towards where the Eagle and Child pub is.
Yes.
But there's a tree there that was filmed in, was it 1968 it would have been?
Yes.
It was broadcast in 1969 but filmed in 1968. And we went there in 2016 and you can still see it's the same
You
tree.
can. It's a bit bigger.
It's a bit bigger, but it's got sort of 3 branches like it had all those years ago. And I was very pleased to stand in the same place where the camera in Callan
Had
stood.
Yeah.
That's a very nice bit of location silliness. We didn't go and find where the houses were because that would have been a bit too far. Go and stand in somebody's house and go, "Oh, did you know they filmed Callan here?"
Yeah.
I think
Did they actually film? I think they just filmed the outside of the houses and the inside.
Well,
of the
the
houses.
in the garden. I think Lonely hides in a bush rather badly at one point.
He does most things rather badly, bless him.
Yes. Oh, you love that bit in this episode.
Oh, yeah, there's a bit in this episode where Callan wants Lenny to break into a safe because there are some papers in the safe he wants. He can't break into the safe because apparently the keys are... You can't do it in the time.
Yeah, so he blows it up.
So he blows it up. Now, obviously, the effect's not on there.
The studio tape doesn't have the full explosion
No.
sound
so it's
effect,
just
so it's a bit of a pop.
Yeah. So, at this point, Brigadier Pringle rushes in.
Yeah.
And is held at bay by Callan with
gunpoint.
At gunpoint. And he tells Lonely to go. Callan tells Lonely to go. So Callan says, "Right, good night, Mr. Callan. Good night, sir." And it's just a strange thing. He's just blown his safe up.
But he's still very polite
He's
to him.
still very polite to him.
It's lovely.
It's a
little-
lovely,
yeah.
lonely moment.
I mean,
And
the characterisation in this show is
it's
very, very good.
Yeah. And you can tell that Edward Woodward and Russell Hunter get on.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship
Yeah,
Lonely and Callan have.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good together.
So, and we should say that Anthony Valentine does a different accent in this episode as well.
Oh yes,
He does a sort of...
The character itself does a bit of acting. Yes.
Yes, the character does a sort of not Cockney, a sort of just not as posh accent. So it reminded you of Raffles a bit, because he does these kind of things in Raffles.
Yes, Anthony Valentine as Raffles. As Raffles, he has to sort of act various parts as well. But yes, we are thoroughly enjoying Callan.
We are. So what we normally do is we watch the episode, and then we read the bit in the book about it.
Yeah, so we plug the book again.
Yes.
But yeah, we're carrying on with it. Hopefully, we'll finish it at some point next year.
Yes.
We don't like to rush it too much.
No,
it's quite good to sort of do one every couple of weeks. I don't think we want to OD on it because it's so good. It is let it sit in your mind for a while.
Yes, because there are certain episodes that sit in your mind more.
But as I said, I went into it being a bit unsure because I didn't think it would be my sort of thing. But I was very pleasantly surprised with how well done it
watchable.
Is. Yes.
And it shows that the world is a murky world. It's not a nice world. It's not a world you'd want to be in, really.
No.
But it's a world that the characters inhabit for the good of the country, I guess.
There's a thought. Okay. Right, Callan.
Yep.
Put it on your Christmas list.
Yes. Network's always good for
Yes.
sales. I'm sure there'll be one along soon.
Hello, we're back very, very briefly with
Yes.
some more thoughts about Callan.
Yes.
I've just noticed in the back of this wonderful book that in one of the Edward Woodward hours,
Right.
there's a Callan stroke Father Dear Father sketch.
Okay, really?
Yes, Callan is ordered to retrieve a black box from a suburban house belonging to a double agent and then kill him. Unfortunately, things don't go according to plan. By mistake, Callan goes to the house of the writer Patrick Glover, as played by Patrick Cargill. Hilarity ensues.
Does it indeed?
I don't know. But you've had a thought about who done it, haven't you?
I have.
Oh, good. What have you thought about who done it?
I thought that there is an episode of series one of the series of Whodunit that Edward Woodward hosts.
Yes.
Where Russell Hunter appears.
And they very briefly.
They do a little bit in character.
Yeah.
Very briefly, about sort of 10 seconds or so.
So your thought was maybe the whole of Who Done It is actually Callan.
It's Whodunit series one.
Who Done It series 1 is Callan going undercover as a game show
host called Edward Woodward.
Ah.
Yes.
So you're just wondering if this sketch is Callan canon.
Yes. Callan.
Oh. Please yourselves. Well, that's just about it for this week, except for an urgent police message from Mr. Arbuthnot Stokewobbler of Lower Staines. Could he please return home at once and turn down his MP3 player, which has got stuck in the loop of the sound of me eating fruit jellies, and it's frightening the horses.
Cheerio, see you next time.
That was episode 3 of Round the Archives, starring Lisa Parker and Andrew Trowbridge, with Nick Goodman and Warren Cummings.
On the musical side, you heard Dan Tate and Paul Chandler.
The script for Callan, the Worst Soldier I Ever Saw, was by James Mitchell.
And the producer was Reginald Collin.
Yeah, your stomach rumbling.
I just eaten.
All right. We've just had some thoughts about... Your phone's buzzing again.
Start it so off.
Is it?
Start again.
Start again.